Liam, thanks very much for your time. Good to speak to you. If we start with fitness, I've got a long list of names here that I'm going to throw at you. If we start with a man called Forson, I know you said he's going to be out for sort of a length of time, but has he now had that follow-up meeting where there's a bit more clarity about treatment?
Yeah, it doesn't require surgery at the moment, so we're hopeful. That's going to remain the case, and he'll have a smooth recovery. I think it's going to be a considerable amount of time. So it doesn't mean he'll stop developing. We'll put energy into elsewhere, whether it be in the gym, whether it be video work, etc. So we'll be putting energy into that. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit of time.
How is he coping with it? Because it feels like it probably came at quite a poor time for him.
Yeah, naturally you could see he was upset when he came off, hugely disappointed. I think I think he was quite upbeat. He was enjoying playing and relishing the season ahead. But I had a chat with him this morning. We sat down and kind of course, it should hurt because you should be desperate to play, but it's an opportunity to learn and progress in other areas of his game.
And a couple more who are probably a little bit further behind in their sort of fitness. How's Gabe Forsyth? Where is he in his recovery?
On track, progressing well. He's out running and doing that. So we've been pleased with the way things have gone. But yeah, he's still going to be a few weeks as yet before he's back in training with the team. But yeah, we're pleased. We he had an appointment the other day that went well, so all was good.
And Lucian Mahova?
Similar, progressing nicely.
Would you expect him to be back in team training quite soon?
Hopefully. I think it's still going to be a couple of weeks probably before fully. But I think that's where we've obviously got a busy couple of weeks, and then you've got the international break. So I think it probably comes at a half decent time where we can look to reintegrate him in and around that period, hopefully.
Yeah, and in terms of Kenny McLean, sort of how long would you expect that? I know you said international break a few weeks ago. Does that still feel like the sort of timeline?
Yeah, possibly. He's doing really well, Kenny. He's progressing extremely well. So, as with all of them, I think that the challenge you always get is, when you start to ramp up certain stages of their return to play, you have to see how they respond. And sometimes they'll, get over it quite quickly and be able to move on to their next stage. Other times it might take a little bit longer, just due to how the body responds. But yeah, Kenny's in a good spot. He's moving forward nicely.
Is Elliot Miles still looking like sort of a bit of a longer term one for you at the moment?
Yeah, it'll still going to be a little bit of a time, yeah.
Okay, and just a couple who weren't involved in the Carabao Cup on Tuesday. Obviously, Ante Cats. I know you said that was just resting, but just to double check, he's good to go. And Matthias Kvistgaarden, is he still ill, or could he feature?
Yeah, they both trained this morning.
Okay.
So yeah, you can trust what I said.
So they
Tuesday.
Could be involved tomorrow.
You can trust what I said Tuesday.
Yeah. And just to sort of come on to transfers a little bit. Obviously, Brad Hills, I think we're led to believe, is quite close to move to Stockport County. So I don't know how much you want to say about that or not, but I mean, just tell us where that is at the moment.
It's with Ben and Neil. I think it's with them at the minute. So yeah, ultimately until it's final and everything's done, for me, he's still with us until it's completely finalised. So yeah, it's with Ben and Neil. Yeah,
but obviously he's kind of quite far down the pecking order, so that probably explains if and when he does go this summer why that decision's maybe been taken.
Yeah, and I spoke about it the other day. I think it's one of those of best interest of the club, but also the player as well. And after the game, I spoke the other day about it, and basically just said that he obviously had a decent season last year, and he's at that age where he wants to go and play and wants to go and compete. And I think he obviously had a taste of it last year. He's as you said, he's behind a few here at the minute, so he wants to go and do that. And yeah, if it works right for us, we'll explore it.
I think there are a few others, obviously, who haven't really been too close to it at the moment. Anspen Slimane, Shane Duffy, George Long. Is it sort of progressing with them, or is that again a case of you kind of leaving it to Ben and Neil and just continuing to work with them?
Yeah, it's constant in the background. There's conversations happening all the time, and as you know, it's not just on what we do; it's what other clubs are doing elsewhere and the knock-on effect of that. There's so many factors behind the scene. It's not as easy as this is it. Let's move forward. I think there's lots of conversations, and again, it's such a fluid thing, a transfer window. So yeah, they're guys. You saw Shane was around it the other night and spoke extremely well in the changing room. And the other guys are training properly and are pushing hard every day as well. And like I said, they're still under contract with us, so they'll be treated like they should be.
Yeah, I also wanted to ask you about Marcelino Nunes, because I think there's been a bit of speculation about him sort of the last few weeks, and he's in obviously the last year of his contract. But I thought he underlined on Tuesday, didn't he, how big he can be for you and for your group.
Yeah, I thought he did well on Tuesday. I thought he performed well. I think that the goal, we had a laugh about the goal just now in the team meeting. But he's got that about him. I think he wants to create. He wants to take opportunities and do that side of it. And I thought he had a really strong performance on Tuesday. I thought he did well. And like I said, he's someone that's still under contract here, and I'll be working with him. Getting ready for the weekend.
And it feels like that area at the moment with, since you brought in Mirko, you've got Jacob Wright in there as well. Are you quite pleased with the strength and depth you've got in the midfield and the options you've got?
Yeah, I am. I think, and you bring Kenny back, you bring Gabe back. I think we've got good depth. I think you have to have that.
Yeah.
Injury, across the course of a championship season, when you look at the physical demands, the demands of the program, you're going to pick up injuries along the way, suspensions, etc. And what you want to be able to do is, when you've got a few injuries, be able to put people in that sustain the level of the team, and also I think you see it the other night the importance of changes in game. I thought the lads coming on the other night had really good impact, and it's a huge part of it. If we can make 3 or 4 changes in game that sustain or raise the level, it's a really important part of being successful at this level. So really pleased with the depth and the options we've got.
And just finally on transfers, I promise. In terms of ins, obviously a lot of the focus has been on sort of sales maybe in the last few weeks. Would you say that you're still in the market, or is it a case of just sort of being alive to maybe what develops?
Yeah. I think it's one of those you have to see how the rest of the window pans out. I think we've done some really good early work, which I do believe we'll see the benefits of. As we move forward, it allows us to. Even this week, we've had 2 quick experiences, which a frustrating, disappointing one at the weekend and a positive one on Tuesday that allow us to learn and grow quicker. It allows us, for me, first half's more what I want the team to look like the other night. So it allows us to kind of reinforce some of the ways we want to play. So I'm really pleased with where the squad's at. But you also have to have that element where I don't want to open myself up and commit to something to be held to it. So we'll have to see. At the minute, like I said, I'm really happy with the group we've got.
And obviously yesterday was the Carabao Cup draw, Southampton at home. So what's your initial reaction to that? Yeah,
another good game, another testing game. Obviously, delight to be at home. So we can come here and have another game. And as always, we'll do everything we can to try and win that one and progress.
Does that feel like quite a good, because it's against strong championship opposition, does that feel like quite a good sort of realistic test at this stage of the season when you're still trying to sort of develop your system and within the players? I think
they will. I think whoever you play is a test. I think it's more for me on the controllables. I think is what can we do, and that as I said, we had a tough meeting on Monday. We had a more positive one today in terms of being able to look at things that were good. And I think that's the bit we have to chase, irrespective of who we play, is the consistency on us and our way of working. And I think we have to if we go and win 4-0, we have to look at what wasn't great, what can we do better. The same as we look at what's good, and it's no different to if we lose 4-0. What was good, what can be better, and I think that's the bit that allows you to grow and improve as a team. So the coming games and beyond that won't change. We'll go into it with exactly the same attitude, the same focus, and the same way to try and achieve success.
Indeed. One player I wanted to ask you about was Kellen Fisher, because I think there's been a bit of a debate maybe about the role that he can play, because he's probably less of that traditional wing-back type maybe than Jack Stacey is, but he seemed to play that role pretty well on Tuesday night. So did that show for you that he can actually, you don't have to maybe go to a back 4 if you want Kellen to play, that he can also compete with Jack to play that wing-back role this season?
Yeah, I thought he did well the other night, Kellen. I thought his all-round basics were really good. I thought he got forward and supported attacks quite well at times as well. So he showed a bit of bite, which I liked as well. I think that's important. Against an extremely physical side in Watford as well. So I think it's one of those. I think he's had a really good breakout season last year, and it's now around building on that. And I think he's doing what the team needs, and he did that the other night.
Is it a difficult one to balance as a head coach too, when you've got someone like Kellen who you want to develop and you want to sort of bring on, but you've also got that competition from Jack, who obviously you started on Saturday?
Yeah, that's the competition. I think the age and the experience, I think, is not massively important. I think in terms of when you look at it in isolation, I think across the team that you pick on when you look at the whole starting lineup, I think it is important. But when you look at if you use Kellen and Jack as an example, I think I really like the competition. I think my job's then to manage it and support them. So if one's ahead of the other, I'll be definitely sitting with the one that's a little bit behind to go, right, this is what you need to do, and we'll work and help you to raise your level, to push the person that's in front. So that for me is our job as staff. My job as the head coach is to manage that competition and make sure that everybody's quite clear on what they need to do to be in the team, but then also if you're not, what you need to do to get in it. So that for me, I really want that competition in squad.
Yeah, I suppose that's quite a good segue into the sort of the system that you've maybe used, and it was a slightly different one probably on Tuesday night to where it looked like a back three, back five at times, and then it would change into a sort of back four. So could you just tell us a little bit about maybe why that works for you and why you did something like that without maybe exposing too much for Portsmouth this weekend?
Giving you everything.
Yeah.
I think the big bit for me, I think, is especially in possession, is occupying spaces. Yeah. And again, I think that it's less on the structure, more putting people in positions to ask the right questions of the opposition. And then I think when I look at it for me of how we do it, I think what the players will then get better at is knowing where people are going to be and then making the right decision off the back of it. So in possession, I think for everybody, for me included, for the fans, I think you want to see an element of unpredictability and bits where we have to find the right balance of giving the players an element of structure so that you know where people are going to be and you can stay aligned but also be free within it. I want players to be brave enough and have enough confidence in themselves, but also from us that they can go and express themselves and try things. And that's why I enjoyed elements of Papa the other night in terms of off the cuff type stuff, but within it there's also a structure where people are going to be. So it probably becomes a little bit more important on the out of possession, I think, in terms of what we play and how we set up. But again, it will still come back to having solutions. If the opposition do this in game, the players are aware of what we do and aren't relying on me to get to half time to solve it, and the players are understand the game well enough and why we do certain things to be able to go and change in game. So there are bits that do take a little bit of time, but I do genuinely believe when they get it right and they understand why they do things, the ceiling's a lot higher.
Yeah, I think someone who plays quite an interesting role in that system is Ben Cresen, because probably before you arrived you would have looked at it going into things saying he's probably more of a wing back than a centre back type, but he's been sort of that left sided centre back at times. He's also maybe looked like a left back at times in the games as well. So I was just interested to know how you came up with that role for him and how you saw him in that role.
Yeah, I think what it allows you to do is kind of move between the 3-4-5, whatever you want to call it, whatever it looks like on that back line. And like I say, I like the multifunctional aspect to it. I like the fact that you can play inside, can play outside, can join as well from deep. And again, I think that then again it makes you harder to play against. And again, I thought he was someone that he obviously we had to reintegrate slowly over the course of pre-season and build him up due to obviously the injury sustained at the back end of last year. But I think he's progressing well. I thought he had a really good game the other night. I think he's still got loads of areas to improve on and come. I think he's someone that has got some really exciting potential and someone that will work with and push to try and achieve that.
Yeah, I also wanted to ask you about Harry Darling, because obviously I know defence was a big priority for you when you came in, and it feels like he's already become sort of quite a key part of that for you.
Yeah, and to be fair, obviously I worked with him at MK, but his levels have gone up a considerable amount since I last worked with him. I think he has really matured, grown up. I think his focus is better. You see his qualities on the ball. I think positionally he's improved a lot in terms of the defensive side of the game, which was something we used to bang on him about a few years ago. So I think he's definitely grown in that area. And I think you see his leadership coming out now as well. Papa's tackle first half, Harry's the first one to run over and celebrate it and congratulate that. And they're the types of things we showed the lads those clips today. It was the same when Mate won the free kick in the 90-plus minute. I think that type of stuff, it's easy to go and celebrate the goals. We have to celebrate the little actions, the tackle, the recovery run, the block shot, the non-sexy stuff that helps you win games. I think Harry's been kind of key in kind of building in that and celebrating it in game. So that then just reinforces what we want to be about culturally.
Is it helpful to have someone who you've worked with before who kind of knows what you're about as well and can maybe be a bit of a go-between, almost tactically, between you and the rest of the players?
Yeah, I think it allows him to probably settle a little bit quicker, and he knows what we're like as people. So I think, rightly so at the weekend, we have a disappointing result, disappointing performance. Naturally, talk a lot about us learning around the lads, what they're like under pressure, but the lads will want to see how we respond to, losses or wins. And again, that's why, I think when you look at it, it was tough at the weekend, it was frustrating, but hopefully the lads will see what we're about in terms of the consistency of our behaviours. We're not going to come in and change my attitude towards people or be different because of it. Of course, I hurt like everybody, but we quickly move on and go, right, we don't want many of those experiences. How do we stop it? So for someone like Harry, I think him knowing us allows him to probably settle and comes in with an element of confidence when he steps on the pitch. He knows what he's going to get. When it goes right and goes wrong, he already knows that. So he's made a really positive start. The challenge now is to sustain that level, and if not, if anything, raise it to a higher level. Going to give him a bit. For me, he's got a score of set pieces. It's a big part as well. And even in the first 2 games, he had a few opportunities as well. So for me, we'll be pushing him on that front as well.
And on to Portsmouth. I know you'll mainly focus on your side and what you can do, but what do you make of them as opposition?
Yeah, you'll probably ask me that most weeks and probably get a fairly standard answer of just how difficult the division is. It is so tight. The margins are so fine. And also you have to then throw Fratton Park into the mix. What a difficult place it is to go. You only have to look at the home record last season, how difficult it is to go down there. But it's one where when I look at the week we've had, it's one that we should be really relishing, one that we should be looking forward to. To build on some varied experiences over the first 2 games, take those learnings and those aspects into Saturday, and we'll make sure that we give absolutely everything to try and get a win.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned kind of Fratton Park and how difficult that can be to go to. Do you feel like away form was something you needed to improve upon from last season? Obviously, a nice early away win at Watford the other night. So is that something you really wanted to work on and improve upon from last season coming in?
Away form.
Yeah, well, just away form generally, really. Because I think Norwich have basically struggled the last few years. I know your Bristol City side did sort of okay last season, away from home. So is that something you wanted to improve upon for Norwich and feel is important as well?
Yeah, of course. I think do you make wholesale changes to how you play?
Yeah.
No, I think there's elements where, of course, you have to, I think, respect and understand what you're going into. So for me, home or away, we'll be doing absolutely everything. We'll be organised, we'll be well prepared, we'll be well planned. We'll make sure we have clarity in how do we handle certain situations, and then we have to turn up and deliver. I think that's the biggest bit. We can talk lots, but it ultimately comes down to actions when the game starts. What do we do?
Yeah, just a couple more from me. You obviously saw the travelling support at Watford, 1,700 people, and I'm sure it'll be similar at Portsmouth. So what would be your message to them? Same again.
I thought it was excellent on Tuesday. Really enjoyed it. Top atmosphere, I think, in terms of on a Tuesday night away in first round of the Carabao Cup. I thought it was really strong support, and again, I'm pretty sure the fans hopefully would have enjoyed a lot of what they saw, and also understand that we're going on a journey, and to enjoy it and to make the most of the moments, and even after the game, you could feel a little bit of a connection, I thought, between the staff, the players, and we have to build on that. We have to keep developing that and further strengthening the relationship, and hopefully we can go down there and again try and create another memory.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of lead me on to my final question, which was sort of the positive feeling after that win at Watford. I'm sure obviously everyone was disappointed after Millwall, but does it feel positive around the place going into this one, having got your first win on the board?
Yeah, no, of course. Naturally, I think first thing Monday morning coming in, I think there's an air of everybody of kind of seeing what's it going to be like, what's the atmosphere like. But again, I think that's where we have to hold each other to account to performances and results. But we also have to, we can't dwell on it. We can't carry a hangover. We have to make sure that when we come in, we're good to go. And that's what we showed, I think, on Monday. It was, right, let's look at what wasn't right, what we need to do better. Let's not hide from it. Let's be brave, step up to it, and then let's move on quickly. And that for me is really important. We role model that, that positive energy, that the attitude to progress and learn and get better and improve. And of course, there's going to be bumps along the way, but let's really work hard to try and create as many positive memories and positive experiences as we can.
Good stuff. Thanks, Liam. Best of luck this weekend.
Andy? Liam, nice to see you. Similar question to Sam there. How big a win was that for you personally, considering obviously you're a new club, but just to get off the mark, it must be a big relief for you.
I'm delighted to win. Of course I am. I want to win every game, but I think it's about the team. It's about I think the group of staff. We worked real hard pre-season to create a real togetherness, a real culture, and there'll be a lot of people that'll be as relieved as probably I am, or as pleased as I am, as everybody was hurt on Saturday. So I think of course, I want to be a success here. I want to achieve things. I want to win games. I want to do it a certain way. I want a really strong connection with the fans. But I think it's the collective that does that. It's not me on my own. So yeah, delighted to win, delighted we could give the fans, you know, progress, and we want to back it up on Saturday for everybody involved with the club, not just me.
We talked about how impressive Papa Diallo was on Tuesday. There's been a lot of hype around the fans. They're saying he needs to be in the team. Is that a view that you share, or is it important to keep a clear head and put him in when he's ready?
He'll have 30,000 people picking different teams. That's the plus more probably. That's the bit. Again, I think he was. I really enjoyed watching him the other night. I thought he brought some really different aspects to the team in terms of his unpredictability, his personality. It doesn't speak a huge amount of English, so but shows personality, and that's the big bit. I think the lesson that all of us can take from him, the rest of the players as well. Go out, he plays with no fear, goes and expresses himself, tries to be positive. So, yeah, look, he did really well. He's someone we're delighted that we were able to bring here. I'm really excited by what he can bring, and he's obviously going to play a major part of what we're going to do across the course of this season.
Just a couple of transfer lines, if I may. I'm trying to think of some new ones, but going back to Forson, obviously he's quite a unique player, isn't he, in that sort of number 10 area. Do you feel you need to replace him, or do you think you've got options there?
No, we've got options. I think you see that the other night. I thought Emmy was excellent the other night, and I thought Oscar did really well. Probably best I've seen him since we've come in terms of his match minutes. I thought he as a front three, them two and Sarge, I thought played just balanced off each other really well. Sarge dropped in and Emmy would run depth, same as Oscar, and I thought we had real good variation in our top line from them three. So I think when you look at that, when you look at Matthias, when you look at Ante, we've got numerous options in that area. So yeah, I'm like I said, I'm really pleased with what we've got.
And Jurasek, he obviously came off the bench. How big was that for him to just be involved again? It's been so long, hasn't it? But have you noticed a bit of a boost in him since he's got on the pitch?
Yeah, he trained well today. I thought he trained well today. I think it's difficult, right? When you're out injured for a period of time like he was, and your level's up here, you pick up the injury and your head, you're still at that level, but you've been out for such a period that naturally you get the adrenaline, the excitement of being back that gets you through a period, and then I think it's one of those. Just then, how do you sustain that? And I thought he did exactly what we needed him to the other night. The moment where defended a corner terrifically well, he then obviously pressed it, regained it, won us a free kick. Such a small action it seems, but it goes from us defending our box to now all of a sudden we can breathe and get bodies up the pitch. It's a huge momentum shift, and they're the bits for me. I think he's, like I said, he trained well today. Good for him to get minutes the other night, and we're going to keep pushing him and keep building on that.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because Diallo did a similar thing in the first half, didn't he? How important is it, those little moments, as you call it, that make a huge difference?
Massive. I think they get overlooked, I think, too often. I think, we have to celebrate bits like that. I spoke about Harry Darling, obviously. If you see him runs over straight away 20 yards for Papa and for Mate, celebrate it. And that's huge, that. I think I've said it numerous times, I know to you guys, in terms of everybody attacks, everybody defends, everybody contributes, and that's what everybody wants to see. It wasn't just Harry. I think the roar from the fans when Papa made that tackle was a huge thing that can give people a lift. So we have to make sure that we celebrate that and that we keep doing it.
Sorry, I've got to ask you the traditional Josh Siding question. He's so important, isn't he? Does it get to a point in the window where you've got to almost put the drawbridge up and say he can't leave because he's too important? Or are you still open?
I'd have put the drawbridge up a few weeks ago if I could. I think it's one of those, you obviously have to respect the situation. That one, my answer is probably going to be the same as it was a week ago to 2 weeks ago to 3 weeks ago. He's very much our player at the minute, I think, in terms of how he's working, his leadership. Funny thing is, when we took him off, he was sat behind Hoggy on the bench the other night and was asking how on earth do we do it from the sideline when it's that stressful. And he's all in. I just can't speak highly enough of him as a personal, as a person, but also as a professional in terms of how he's handled, all the noise, all the speculation, all that side of it. He's kept his head down, worked, and ultimately let his football do the talking, which is the most important bit.
Great. Wish you best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you.